A woman who uses love to climb the ladder doesn't belong by my side. Have you ever heard words that destroyed your entire world in front of 200 witnesses? Clara Hayes did, and the man who spoke them was her fiancé. The champagne glasses caught the light like tiny prisms. Clara stood at the entrance of Bella Vita, Manhattan's most exclusive Italian restaurant, wearing ivory silk and a smile that hadn't yet realized it was about to shatter. Ethan Cole, her fiancé for 3 years, the ambitious politician she'd supported through every campaign speech and donor dinner, stood at the center of the room beside a microphone. His expression was practiced, calculated. This wasn't nerves, this was performance. "Clara, come here," he said, his voice amplified across marble and crystal. She walked forward through the silent crowd. Every eye tracked her movement. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't name it yet. He took her hand, then he dropped it like it burned. "I can't marry you," Ethan announced to the room. "Not when I'm running for Senate, not when integrity matters more than anything." The words landed like physical blows. Around them, phones lifted, recording, broadcasting, immortalizing. Clara's mind went blank with shock. What is happening? "You deserve transparency," Ethan continued, addressing the crowd now, not her. "So I'm being honest. A relationship built on ambition rather than authenticity isn't one I can defend to the voters." Translation: he was blaming her. For what? For existing? For loving him? She looked at the faces surrounding them, colleagues from her architecture firm, Ethan's wealthy donors, city officials she'd smiled at dozens of times. Not one person moved to help. Her boss, Mrs. Hartwell, stood near the bar with tight lips and averted eyes. They'd all known this was coming, everyone except Clara. "I'm sorry it had to be public," Ethan said with false gentleness, "but I believe in honesty above all else." The irony would have been funny if Clara could breathe. She turned. Her legs remembered how to move, even though her brain had stopped processing. The ivory silk whispered against the polished floor as she walked, head high, spine straight, refusing to run, even though every instinct screamed at her to flee. Behind her, the murmur started, excited, hungry, the sound of people watching someone's life collapse and calling it entertainment. Clara pushed through the glass doors into November cold. Flashbulbs exploded in her face. Paparazzi lined the sidewalk like they'd been tipped off. Of course they had been. This wasn't a breakup. This was an execution. Carefully planned political theater, and she'd been the unwitting star. Her breath came in short gasps. The cameras pressed closer, voices shouting questions that felt like accusations. "Clara, did you know? Clara, is it true you used him? Clara, how does it feel to be dumped?" A black Bentley cut through the chaos and stopped at the curb. The back door opened. A man stepped out, tall, late 30s, wearing a charcoal suit that spoke of wealth and power. His eyes were dark, assessing, and completely calm in the middle of the storm. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. "Miss Hayes," his voice cut through the noise, quiet but commanding. "You have 2 choices. Face them or come with me." Clara stared at him. "Who are you?" "Someone who recognizes opportunity when he sees it." He gestured to the open car door. "And right now you're standing in the middle of one." The cameras surged forward. Microphones thrust toward her face. The questions became accusations. The accusations became noise. And the noise became unbearable. Clara looked back at the restaurant one last time. Through the glass walls, she could see Ethan shaking hands with his donors, accepting congratulations. For what? For destroying her? She looked at the stranger with the steady eyes and the extended hand. Then she got into the car. The door closed. The world went blessedly quiet. Leather seats, the scent of cedar and expensive whiskey, and the sudden absence of cruelty. The stranger slid in beside her with economical grace. Luca Moretti. "I didn't ask for your name," Clara said. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "You will." He nodded to the driver. The Bentley pulled smoothly away from the curb, from the cameras, from the life Clara had spent 28 years building. She pressed her palms flat against her thighs to stop them from shaking. "Where are we going?" "Away from that circus." Luca studied her with unsettling focus. "You just became the most talked-about woman in Manhattan. I can make that work for both of us." Clara turned to look at him properly. His profile was sharp, strong jaw, Roman nose, the kind of face that belonged on ancient coins or modern boardrooms. There was something coiled in his stillness, like a predator who'd learned that patience was more dangerous than speed. "I don't need your help," she managed. "Not yet." His mouth barely moved. "But you will. By tomorrow morning, that video will have 10 million views. Your face will be on every gossip site from here to Los Angeles. Your career, your reputation, your entire future, all of it depends on the narrative that forms in the next 72 hours. He was right. Clara hated that he was right. "And what do you get out of helping me?" she asked. "Who said anything about helping?" Luca's eyes met hers. "This is business, Miss Hayes. I have something you need. You have something I want. Whether we make a deal depends entirely on how smart you are." The car glided through Manhattan traffic. Clara's phone buzzed incessantly in her purse. Texts, calls, notifications, the world reacting to her humiliation in real time. She looked at the stranger beside her, this man who'd appeared out of nowhere with perfect timing and dangerous promises, and made a choice. "Tell me what you want," Clara said. Luca Moretti smiled for the first time. It wasn't warm, but it was honest. 2 days later, Clara sat in her apartment, staring at her phone. The clip had 17 million views. The comments were worse than she'd imagined. Gold digger. She had it coming. Ethan dodged a bullet. Her hands were steady now. Shock had turned into something colder. The email arrived at 6:47 p.m. No subject line, just 5 words. "Dinner, 7 p.m., Bella Vita." LM Clara almost deleted it. Then she looked around her apartment, the carefully chosen furniture, the framed blueprints on the walls, the life she'd built with her own hands, and realized none of it mattered anymore. Mrs. Hartwell had called that morning. "Suspension pending review. We can't have this kind of attention." Attention, as if she'd chosen it. She put on a black dress, simple, professional, the kind of armor that didn't draw eyes. Bella Vita looked different at night, softer. The maitre d' recognized her, of course he did, but his expression stayed neutral as he led her to a private room in the back. Luca Moretti stood when she entered. He wore navy this time, no tie. He looked like a man who'd never needed to impress anyone. "You came," he said. "You knew I would." "Yes." He pulled out her chair. "Because you're smart enough to know when the game has changed." Clara sat. A server appeared with wine, something red, probably expensive. She didn't touch it. "What do you want?" she asked. Luca leaned back. to make you an offer. I don't take charity. Good, this isn't. He slid a folder across the table. 6-month contract. You play the role of my wife. Public appearances, events, enough to be seen. In return, I clear your name from the media and personally ensure Ethan Cole's political campaign ends before it begins. Clara opened the folder. Legal documents, precise, clinical. At the bottom, compensation. $500,000 USD, professional contract, lead architect, Red Hook Community Development Project. Her breath caught. Red Hook was the largest urban renewal project in Brooklyn. Career-defining work. Why? She asked. Because I need a wife. He said it like he was ordering coffee. The kind that makes me look stable, trustworthy. The kind that politicians and investors want to shake hands with. You could hire an actress. Actresses lie for a living. Luca's eyes didn't leave hers. You lie only when you have to. There's a difference. Clara set down the folder. What's really going on here? For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. You're asking the right questions. That's why I chose you. That's not an answer. No. He poured himself wine. But it's the only one you're getting tonight. Clara looked at the contract again. The numbers were real. The project was real. Everything else, Ethan's cruelty, the viral video, the suspension, that was real too. If I say yes, she said slowly, what happens to my life? You get a new one. Luca set down his glass. Better than the one he tried to take. She thought about her apartment, her empty calendar, the messages from friends that had stopped coming, the way her own reflection had started to look like a stranger's. I need to think about it. You have until Friday. He stood, pulled a card from his pocket. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, just a phone number. Call me when you're ready to stop thinking. He left her there with the folder and the wine she hadn't touched. Clara sat in the quiet, expensive room and tried to remember what it felt like to make a choice that was hers alone. By Friday, her bank account had $840 left. Mrs. Hartwell's assistant had called to say the review might take months. A reporter from the Post had somehow gotten her number. Clara stood in front of her bathroom mirror and practiced saying no. The word felt too small for what she was facing. She called the number on the card. Luca answered on the first ring. Yes, I'll do it, Clara said, but I have conditions. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. They met at his office, a penthouse in Tribeca, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Clara had researched him. Moretti Construction, infrastructure investment, connections that went deeper than blueprints. She'd found the whispers, too. The kind that came with Italian last names and too much power. Mafia, some people said, though no one could prove it. Clara had decided she didn't care. Survival didn't have the luxury of moral high ground. My conditions, she said, standing in front of his desk. Separate bedrooms, no physical relationship. I design Red Hook my way, no interference. And when this ends, I walk away clean. Luca considered her. Then he nodded. Agreed, with one addition. What? You don't lie to me, ever, about anything. His voice was quiet. I'll know if you do. Fine. He opened a drawer, pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, platinum band, single diamond, elegant and understated. Not the kind of ring that screamed, "Look at me," the kind that said, "This is real." He slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. How did you? I pay attention. Luca's thumb brushed her knuckle just once. Smile, Mrs. Moretti, the world's watching. Sometimes survival requires making deals with dangerous people. If you're hooked on where this goes, subscribe now. Clara and Luca's story is just beginning. The house sat on the edge of the Hudson, modern glass and steel softened by old trees. Clara had her own wing, bedroom, study, a balcony that overlooked the water. Luca stayed in the east side. They moved through the space like careful strangers. The first week was performances, a charity gala where Luca introduced her as my wife Clara, brilliant architect, even better woman. A brunch with his business partners where she smiled and talked about sustainable design. A photo shoot for Manhattan magazine that made them look like they'd invented romance. The ring caught light everywhere they went. At night, Clara worked on Red Hook. The plans spread across her desk: community center, affordable housing, green spaces. She'd dreamed of projects like this. Now she had one, wrapped in a bargain she still wasn't sure she understood. Luca knocked on her study door one evening. May I? She gestured him in. He carried 2 cups of coffee, set one by her blueprints. You work late, he said. So do you. He studied the plans. This is good, better than good. Thanks, Clara marked a measurement. Though I'm guessing you didn't come here to critique my drafting. No. Luca sat in the chair across from her. I came to tell you something. She looked up. Ethan's campaign is struggling, he said. Your disappearance made people curious. Some are asking questions about his version of events. That was the point, wasn't it? Part of it. Luca's expression was unreadable. But there's more. The Red Hook project. It's connected to people Ethan knows. Money that shouldn't be mixed with politics. Clara's pen stopped moving. What kind of money? The kind that comes with conditions. He met her eyes. I need you to understand what you're in the middle of. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to be honest. Luca's voice dropped. Ethan sold information about this project, details that could have killed it before it started. He needed to pay off gambling debts, and he chose the easy way. Clara set down her pen. How do you know this? Because I make it my business to know. He didn't apologize for it. And because the people he sold to, Franco De Luca and his associates, they're the reason I need someone like you by my side. Someone like me. Someone clean. Someone real. Luca leaned forward. They think I'm weak because I'm trying to go legitimate. They think a wife makes me soft. I need them to think that, for now. Clara's mind raced. So I'm bait. No, you're the reason I'm getting out. His jaw tightened. But if Franco realizes that before I'm ready, things will get complicated. Complicated how? The kind that ends badly. He stood. I won't let that happen, but you need to know what the stakes are. Clara looked at her blueprints, at the community center that could help hundreds of families, at the dream that now had teeth hidden inside it. What do you need me to do? She asked. Be brilliant, be visible, and trust me. Luca moved toward the door, then paused. Clara? Yes. Thank you for not running. After he left, Clara sat in the quiet and wondered if courage was just another word for being too stubborn to quit. The trap was her idea. 2 weeks later, Clara stood in Luca's office reviewing the Red Hook contracts. She'd noticed something, discrepancies in the material orders, invoices that didn't match the specs. Someone's skimming, she told Luca, and they're using my designs to do it. He came to stand beside her, looking at the documents spread across his desk. Franco, he got to the subcontractors. Then we use it. Clara's voice was steady. I'll revise the plans, hide markers in the blueprints that will expose where the money's actually going. When Franco makes his move, we'll have proof. Luca studied her. That puts you directly in his sights. I'm already there. She met his gaze. This project matters, not just to me, to families who need it. Something shifted in Luca's expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone easier to protect. He touched her shoulder, briefly. We'll do this your way, but you follow my lead when it comes to safety. Deal. They shook on it, and Clara felt the moment stretch, his hand warm, his eyes darker up close. Then he let go, and they were business partners again. The rooftop party was Franco's idea, a celebration of Red Hook's groundbreaking, held at a hotel in Soho with city lights glittering below. Clara wore emerald green. Luca's hand rested at her lower back as they entered, a touch that looked possessive but felt protective. Franco De Luca worked the room like a shark, mid-40s, expensive suit, smile that never reached his eyes. He greeted Luca with false warmth. Moretti and the famous Mrs. Moretti. Franco took Clara's hand, held it too long. The architect, I've been hoping to discuss the project. Of course, Clara said smoothly. I'm always happy to talk about the work. Luca's fingers pressed against her spine, a warning. Franco led them to a quieter corner. I have concerns about the timeline, perhaps some adjustments to the materials budget. The budget is set, Clara replied, unless you found inefficiencies I missed. Not inefficiencies, opportunities. Franco's smile sharpened. Ways to maximize profit while maintaining quality. Clara knew what he was really saying. She also knew Luca's security team was recording every word from 3 different angles. I believe in building things that last, she said. Shortcuts tend to crumble. Franco's expression cooled. Idealism is charming, Mrs. Moretti, but this is business. Then let's keep it that way. Clara's tone was steel wrapped in silk, transparent, legal, the kind that survives scrutiny. Across the rooftop, she saw a familiar face, Ethan watching them with his politician's smile. Her stomach turned. Excuse me, she murmured to Luca. He caught her wrist, gentle. Careful. She nodded and walked toward her ex-fiancé. Ethan saw her coming. His expression flickered. Surprise, calculation, something that might have been regret, if she believed in his ability to feel it. Clara. He said her name like they were old friends. You look well? I am well. She kept her voice neutral. Congratulations on the campaign. Thank you. He glanced at Luca across the room. I see you've landed on your feet. I always do. Ethan leaned closer. Look, about what happened. You humiliated me in front of 200 people, Clara said quietly. You destroyed my reputation to boost your image. There's nothing to discuss. It was necessary. His jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand the pressure. Try me. He hesitated. Then, perhaps because he'd had too much champagne, or because he needed someone to know, he spoke. I owed money, a lot of money, the kind that comes with deadlines. Clara's pulse quickened. To who? People who don't take no for an answer. Ethan's face was pale now. They wanted information about Red Hook, about Moretti's plans. I gave it to them. You sold out a community project for gambling debts? I sold out you to stay alive. He said it without shame. And I'd do it again. Clara felt something crack inside her. Not heartbreak, but the final thread of who she'd been when she loved him. Thank you, she said. Ethan blinked. For what? For showing me exactly who you are. She turned away. Good luck with your campaign, you'll need it. She walked back to Luca. His eyes asked the question. He confessed, she said softly, to everything. I know. Luca touched her elbow. My sister Lucia runs security. She had a directional microphone aimed at you the entire time. Clara should have felt angry at the manipulation. Instead, she felt something else, safe. What happens now? She asked. Now? Luca's voice was grim. We see who makes the first move. The first move came on a gray Tuesday afternoon. Clara was leaving the Red Hook site after reviewing foundation work when two men emerged from a utility van. They moved with purpose, blocking her path to where Vincent waited by the car. One grabbed her arm, the other pressed something cold against her ribs. Not a weapon, but the threat was clear. Don't scream, the first one said quietly. Mr. DeLuca wants a conversation. You can walk or we can carry you. Your choice. Clara's mind went crystal clear despite the fear flooding her system. She thought of the panic button in her purse. Lucia had insisted she carry it, and Clara had thought it was paranoia. She pressed it as subtly as possible while nodding compliance. They moved her toward the van. Clara went without fighting, calculating. Vincent was shouting something, but they were moving too fast. The van door slid open. Inside was black interior, two more men, equipment she didn't want to identify. They pushed her inside. One of them held up a phone, filming. Say your name. Clara lifted her chin. No. He moved closer, threatening. Say it. Clara Moretti. She stared into the camera. And whatever you're planning, it won't work. You're already making a mistake. The man smiled coldly. Let's see if your husband agrees. Luca was in a meeting reviewing acquisition contracts when his phone vibrated. Video message from an unknown number. He opened it, saw Clara's face, heard her voice, felt the world narrow to a single burning point. Vincent, his tone could have cut steel. Where is she? Panic button activated 3 minutes ago. Red Hook Warehouse District. Vincent was already moving. I'm mobilizing the team. Get everyone and call Reynolds at the FBI. Luca grabbed his coat. Tell him it's time to move. Now. The FBI agent. Boss, are you? Do it. Luca was already heading for the elevator. Franco just gave us everything we need. In the warehouse, Clara sat on a folding chair. Zip ties secured her wrists, not painfully tight, but escape-proof. Franco DeLuca circled her with casual menace. Nothing personal, Mrs. Moretti. You're simply leverage in a business negotiation. Leverage for what? Red Hook, the contracts, your husband's highly profitable little project. Franco checked his watch. He signs everything over to my control. You go home safely. Simple transaction. He won't give you anything. Then I'm afraid you'll discover just how disappointing he can be. Franco's smile didn't reach his eyes. He has 90 minutes to decide. After that, terms become less favorable. Clara tested the zip ties carefully. No give. The warehouse was largely empty. Franco's 3 associates standing guard, bored and armed. Through high windows, she could see afternoon light fading. No one knew she was here except Luca. Except she'd pressed the button. He would come. She believed that with startling certainty. Can I ask you something? Clara kept her voice calm. Franco raised an eyebrow. You're remarkably composed for someone in your position. Panic doesn't solve problems. She met his gaze. Why Red Hook specifically? There are larger projects, easier targets. Why this one? Because it's not about money. It's about demonstrating that Moretti can't simply walk away from family business. Franco leaned against a support beam. Going legitimate comes with a price. He needs to understand that. So this is about pride. This is about respect, about maintaining order. Franco's expression darkened. Your husband thinks he can play both sides, take advantage of connections when convenient, then pretend to be a clean businessman. Someone needs to teach him otherwise. Clara heard it then, distant but growing closer. Sirens. Franco heard it too. His expression shifted from confident to alert. What did you do? Nothing, but apparently someone else did. The warehouse's main door exploded inward with concussive force. Not police. Luca's security team, Vincent leading with tactical precision, weapons drawn but controlled. Behind them, FBI agents in tactical gear, and Luca himself, face tight with controlled fury. Release her now. His voice carried absolute authority. Franco grabbed Clara's shoulder, hauled her up roughly. She leaves when I say. Wrong choice. What happened next was professionally executed chaos. Vincent's team moved with military efficiency. Franco's men went down without shots fired, pressure points, strategic positioning, the kind of techniques that spoke to serious training. One tried to grab Clara as a secondary hostage. She twisted despite the zip ties, drove her knee upward into his stomach with all her strength. He staggered backward. Then Luca was there. He cut the zip ties with a knife that appeared from nowhere, pulled Clara against him, shielding her body with his own. I have you, he murmured into her hair. You're safe. Clara's legs shook as adrenaline crashed through her system, leaving her hollow and trembling. FBI agents swarmed in. Agent Reynolds, tall, gray-haired, radiating quiet authority, and personally handcuffed Franco. Franco De Luca, you're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, racketeering, and conspiracy. Reynolds's voice was flat, professional. Additional charges pending. Franco's face twisted with rage. You set me up, Moretti. This whole thing was a trap. No, you trapped yourself. Luca's arm stayed firm around Clara. I just documented your crimes and gave federal law enforcement the evidence they needed. There's a difference. Reynolds nodded to his team. They led Franco toward waiting transport. The warehouse gradually emptied. Tactical units, police coordination, the systematic machinery of justice. Finally, only Clara and Luca remained in the cavernous space. Her wrists bore red marks from the restraints. His shirt was wrinkled where she'd gripped it. You came, she said. Obvious statement, but her brain was still catching up to her body's stress response. Did you honestly think I wouldn't? No. She hadn't doubted. That was the revelation. But I didn't expect the FBI. I've been building a case with Reynolds for 9 months, gathering evidence, documenting connections between Franco's network and various criminal enterprises. Luca's voice was tired. Tonight provided the final piece, kidnapping with multiple witnesses and electronic documentation. And Ethan? Arrested 2 hours ago, Lucia traced the money transfer from Franco's organization to his campaign. Wire fraud, conspiracy, obstruction. His political career is finished. Clara absorbed this. The plan had worked. The trap had sprung perfectly. She should feel victorious. Instead, she just felt exhausted and strangely safe in Luca's arms. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's go home." At the house, Clara went straight to her room. She stood under the shower until her skin turned pink and the water ran cold, washing away the warehouse dust and fear sweat, and the feeling of zip ties cutting into her wrists. Her hands shook as she dried off. She'd have nightmares about that van, probably. But she was alive. When she emerged in a robe, Luca was in her study. He'd built a fire in the small fireplace, unnecessary in November but deeply comforting. 2 glasses of whiskey sat on her desk. "I didn't hear you come in," she said. "Old habit, apologies." He gestured to the chair. "Sit, drink, you're still processing shock." "I'm fine, Clara," firm but gentle. "Sit." She sat, drank. The whiskey burned pleasantly, grounding her back in her body. Luca took the other chair. For several minutes they just existed in firelight, not speaking. "I should have had better coverage on you," he finally said. "Vincent should have been closer. This is my fault. It's Franco's fault. I brought you into this world, made you visible to dangerous people." His eyes held something she'd never seen before, genuine guilt. "That's on me. You asked if I wanted in. I said yes, that's on me." Clara set down her glass. "I made an informed choice. You said yes because you had no other options. I had options. I chose you." The words settled between them, weighted with meaning. "I chose this arrangement knowing there were risks. You were honest about that from the beginning." Luca leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Why? Why choose this?" "Because you didn't lie to me." Clara wrapped her hands around the glass. "You told me it would be complicated and potentially dangerous. You didn't pretend it was safe or simple." Ethan lied constantly, made everything sound perfect until it wasn't. Then he blamed me when his lies caught up with him. "You've never done that." "That's a remarkably low bar for trust." "It's higher than you think." She looked at him directly. "Most people sugarcoat reality or distort it to serve themselves. You've been honest even when it made you look bad. That matters." Luca reached out, took her hand. His thumb traced the red marks on her wrist with extraordinary gentleness. "I'm sorry you were hurt. They'll fade. Will you, after tonight?" The question was quiet, vulnerable. Clara thought about the van, the warehouse, the cold certainty that she might not survive. Then she thought about doors exploding open, Vincent's team moving with precision, Luca cutting her free and holding her like she mattered more than anything. "Yes," she said, "I will." He lifted her hand, pressed his lips to her palm. Not romantic, something deeper. Acknowledgement, respect, promise. "I need to tell you something," he said. "All right." This arrangement was never just about appearances for me. Luca's voice was steady, but vulnerability flickered in his eyes. "I didn't choose you because you were convenient. I chose you because when I saw you on that sidewalk, surrounded by cameras and cruelty, you didn't break. You got angry. That kind of strength is rare." Clara's breath caught. "Then you came to my office and negotiated, set boundaries, demanded respect." He continued, "Most people in your position would have just accepted what I offered and been grateful. You made me earn your agreement. I respect that. I respect you." The words landed with quiet impact. "This isn't part of our contract," Clara said softly. "No, it's not." "Then what is it?" "Honest." Luca's thumb still traced her wrist. "You asked for honesty, So here it is. This stopped being performance for me weeks ago. I don't know exactly when it changed, but it did. The way you challenge me, the way you see possibilities where others see obstacles, the way you make me want to be better than I've been, that's real. Clara's heart did something complicated. Luca, you don't need to say anything. He released her hand, sat back. I'm not asking you to feel the same. We have 4 months left on our agreement. After that, you're free to leave. I'll honor every term we negotiated. What if I don't want to leave? The question escaped before she could stop it. Luca went completely still. Then we talk about it, he said carefully. When you're certain. When this isn't about gratitude or trauma bonding or anything except what you genuinely feel. Clara wanted to argue that she already knew, but he was right. Tonight had left her raw and uncertain about everything except one thing. She trusted him. Trust was the foundation. Everything else could build from there. All right, she said, we'll talk about it. When I'm sure. When you're sure. He stood, pulled her gently to her feet. For now you need real sleep. Not the kind where you wake every hour checking locks. Are you prescribing bedtime? Strongly suggesting it. His mouth almost smiled. Medical advice from someone who employs several doctors. You're not a doctor. No, but I'm someone who understands trauma response, and you need rest. He walked her to her bedroom door. Lock this. Vincent's team is stationed outside. You're completely safe. I know. She did know. That was the revelation. Standing in the doorway, watching him walk away. This man who'd entered her life like a storm and somehow become shelter. Something clicked into place in her chest. Not love yet, but the architecture of it, the blueprint. Clara locked the door, climbed into bed, and slept without nightmares. Over the following week, media coverage exploded. Franco De Luca arrested on federal charges. Ethan Cole indicted for conspiracy and fraud. The contract marriage between Luca Moretti and Clara Hayes. Suddenly looking like something entirely different. A woman who survived betrayal and found genuine partnership. The narrative had shifted. Clara watched it unfold from Luca's office, while he managed calls with attorneys, FBI liaisons, and the Red Hook development team. The project was back on track, cleaner than ever. Her designs would be built exactly as she'd envisioned. You're frowning, Lucia said from the doorway. Luca's sister, sharp-eyed, dark-haired, possessing the same careful intelligence as her brother. She'd coordinated the FBI operation, managed surveillance, built the digital trail that trapped both Franco and Ethan. Just thinking, Clara replied. Dangerous habit. Lucia entered, perched on the desk edge. You handled yourself well in that warehouse, by the way. Keeping Franco talking bought us critical time. I was trying not to panic, not buy time. Same result. Lucia studied her with unsettling directness. My brother's in love with you. You realize that, right? Clara's stomach flipped. He said he cared. Luca doesn't just care about people. He tolerates them or loves them. There's no middle ground. Lucia's expression softened slightly. And he tolerates almost everyone. But the way he looks at you, I've never seen that before. Not once in 38 years. We have a contract, an arrangement. You have an excuse to avoid dealing with your feelings. Lucia stood. Look, I'm not telling you what to feel. I'm just saying, when someone like Luca lets down his guard, it's significant. He's been himself with you. In our world, that's rarer than you understand. After Lucia left, Clara sat in the quiet office, watching city lights flicker on as dusk settled. She thought about the past 2 months. The way Luca never pushed, never demanded, never made her feel obligated beyond their agreement. The way he'd cut her free in that warehouse, holding her like she was irreplaceable. The way he'd said this stopped being performance for me, with his entire heart visible in his eyes. She was falling, had been falling. The only question was whether she was brave enough to admit it. The conversation happened 2 nights later in the kitchen at midnight. Clara came downstairs for water and found Luca making tea, chamomile, which seemed almost absurdly domestic for a man who'd just helped dismantle a criminal network. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Thinking too much." The architect's curse. He poured her a cup without asking. "Sugar?" "No, just like this." She wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." Clara took a breath. "What happens when the 6 months are up?" Luca's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "You receive your payment, your project, your independence back. That was our agreement." "That's not what I'm asking." He set down his cup. "Then what are you asking? What do you want to happen?" The silence stretched. Outside, the river moved through darkness. Inside, the kitchen felt intimate and small. "I want you to stay," Luca said finally. "Not because of our contract, not because you feel obligated, because you want to be here." He paused. "But only if you're certain, only if it's genuine." "How do we know if it's genuine?" Clara asked. "We started with a transaction." "We started with a transaction. That's not the same as starting with a lie." Luca moved closer. "Everything after, the conversations, the trust you placed in me, the way you challenged me to be better than I've been, that wasn't contractual. That was real." Clara's chest tightened. "I'm scared. Of me. Of this." She gestured between them. "Of falling for someone whose world I'm still learning to navigate. Of building something permanent on a foundation that started as temporary." "Then let's stop being temporary." Luca took her hand, the gesture so familiar now it felt like home. "I'm Luca Moretti. I grew up in a family that taught me power was everything and trust was weakness. I watched my father killed for choosing loyalty over survival. I spent 20 years building an empire I'm not proud of, making choices that kept me safe but left me hollow." His voice remained steady, but storms moved behind his eyes. "Then you got into my car," he continued, angry and heartbroken and refusing to surrender. "And I thought, here's someone who understands. That real strength isn't about walls. It's about knowing when to let them down. You make me believe I can be more than my past, that redemption is possible. That's as real as anything gets." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm Clara Hayes. I grew up believing if I worked hard enough, was good enough, I could build a life that mattered. Then someone I loved destroyed my reputation to save himself, and I learned that goodness alone doesn't protect you." She squeezed his hand. "Then you offered me a path forward," she said. "At first I took it because I was desperate. But then I watched you, the way you treat people with respect, the way you're building something legitimate from morally complicated beginnings, the way you came for me without hesitation. You showed me that strength and gentleness aren't opposites, that I can be safe and still be myself. That's real too." Luca raised her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. "So where does that leave us?" Honest, Clara said. Uncertain about some things, but willing to try. That's all I'm asking. He pulled her close, and she let him. His arms came around her, solid, warm, protective without being possessive. She breathed in cedar and whiskey and something that was uniquely him. No more contract, he murmured against her hair. No more performance, just us building something real. Just us, Clara agreed. They stood in the kitchen, drinking chamomile tea and talking until dawn touched the windows. About childhood memories and adult dreams, his years in Little Italy, her college struggles studying architecture. Books they loved, music that moved them, dreams they'd abandoned and ones they still carried. It felt like the first completely honest conversation Clara had experienced in years. It felt like falling and flying simultaneously. The Red Hook Community Center dedication was scheduled for a cold Saturday in December. Clara worked 18-hour days finalizing every detail, tile selections, lighting angles, ensuring each element matched her vision. Luca watched her obsess over samples with quiet amusement. It's going to be exceptional, he told her the night before. It has to be. Clara spread blueprints across their dining table. Their table now, not his. They'd started saying our and we, without noticing the shift. These families deserve exceptional. They deserve someone who cares as much as you do. That's more valuable than perfection. She looked up at him, this man who'd begun as a bargain and become her partner in every meaningful way. Thank you. For what? For believing in this, in me. Clara touched his hand. For not interfering even when you probably wanted to. Oh, I definitely wanted to. Luca's mouth quirked. But I hired you because you're brilliant. Questioning brilliance would make me an idiot. That's very motivational. I'm feeling inspirational tonight. He pulled her to her feet. Come on, you need sleep, or tomorrow you'll be exhausted. I need to finalize the... Clara. Gentle but firm. It's done, it's beautiful. Now rest. She let him lead her upstairs, realizing she'd stopped fighting his care, had started trusting it instead. The community center gleamed in winter sunlight. Modern lines, warm brick, windows that caught light and threw it back in welcoming patterns. Families gathered on the steps, neighbors, future residents, city officials. Press cameras recorded everything. Clara stood at the podium in a burgundy coat, notes trembling slightly in her hands. Public speaking had never been her strength, but this mattered. Red Hook has always been a neighborhood of resilience, she began. Of people who build and rebuild, who refuse to be displaced or forgotten. This center honors that spirit, providing space for community connection, growth, and possibility. She looked at the faces before her, saw hope, saw future. 2 months ago, I didn't know if I'd ever design again, she continued, voice steadying. I'd been publicly humiliated. My career was in pieces. I felt like I'd lost everything that defined me. In the crowd, Luca watched with an expression that made her heart ache beautifully. But I learned something crucial, Clara said. We don't build our lives alone. We build them with people who see us, believe in us, stand beside us when everything collapses. This center represents that principle. It's not just architecture, it's a promise that we care for each other, that we build things that endure. Applause started softly, then grew. Clara stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed. Mrs. Hartwell stood near the back, her former boss looking genuinely moved. Agent Reynolds nodded approval. Lucia gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up, and Luca walked onto the stage. He wasn't scheduled to speak. Clara's breath caught. "I'm Luca Moretti," he said into the microphone, "and I have something important to say." The crowd quieted completely. "2 months ago, I asked Clara Hayes to marry me," Luca continued. "It was a business arrangement, a contract. We both understood exactly what it was." Clara's heart hammered. "What are you doing?" "But somewhere along the way," Luca said, eyes finding hers, "it became something else. She challenged me to be better, to build things that matter rather than just accumulate them, to value people over power." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. "That contract is finished," he said. "This isn't." He opened the box. Inside was a different ring, more intricate than the first, clearly chosen with profound care. Art Deco design, sapphire center stone, details reminiscent of the skyline visible from their bedroom. "Clara Hayes," Luca said, his voice carrying across the crowd, but meant only for her. "Will you marry me? For real this time. No contracts, no conditions. Just us, building a life together." Clara couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face. Happy tears, the kind she'd forgotten she could cry. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, "Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, the left hand, where the contractual ring had sat for months, now replaced with something true. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Luca pulled her close, kissed her, tender and public, and utterly genuine. When they broke apart, Clara was laughing through tears. "You couldn't wait?" she asked. "You had to propose in front of 200 people?" "I spent 2 months pretending," Luca said. "I'm done hiding how I feel about you." "That's very inspirational." "I learned from the best." They stood together on the stage, the community center rising behind them, the future spreading out like sunrise. Clara had lost everything once, then she'd chosen to rebuild. And she'd built something extraordinary. 3 months later, Clara sat in the Red Hook Community Center, watching a children's art class through the window. The space hummed with life, after-school programs, job training sessions, community meetings. Everything she'd envisioned made real. Luca found her there, as he often did when she stayed late. "Ready to go home?" he asked. "Almost." She leaned into him. "I just like watching it work, seeing people use this space. It's more than working, it's transforming lives." He kissed her temple. "Because you built it right." They'd married 3 weeks prior. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. No press, no performance. Lucia had served as Clara's maid of honor. Vincent stood as Luca's best man. Agent Reynolds attended off-duty because their unlikely alliance had become genuine friendship. Ethan was serving 18 months for conspiracy and fraud. Franco faced 20 years on racketeering charges. The criminal world that had threatened to consume them had been redirected, not destroyed, but transformed. Luca had cooperated fully with federal authorities, providing information that dismantled 3 major operations. He'd paid his debts to society, not with prison time, but with truth. The construction company was fully legitimate now. Red Hook had been the first of many projects. Clara served as lead architect on all of them, building communities rather than just structures. Their life had become something neither expected: quiet mornings over coffee, late nights reviewing plans together, weekends exploring the city like curious tourists, Real, complex, beautiful. I have something for you, Luca said, pulling a folder from his bag. Clara opened it. Legal documents, property deed. The house, she asked, confused. In your name. Luca's voice was soft. I want you to know this is your home, not because you married me, because you chose to stay. And I want you to always know you can choose differently. Clara's throat tightened. You're giving me the house, so I have the option to leave you? I'm giving you the house so you never question whether you're here by choice or necessity. He took her hand. I never want you to feel trapped. Not by me, not by circumstances, not by anything. She set down the folder, turned to face him fully. Luca Moretti, I chose you when I had nothing. I choose you now when I have everything. That choice isn't going to change. I know, but I needed you to know that I know. He pulled her close. You entered my life angry and heartbroken, and you made me believe in second chances, in redemption, in love that isn't about control, but about setting each other free. That sounds like wedding vows. We already said those. Then what is it? A promise. Luca's eyes held hers. That I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of the choice you made. Clara kissed him, slow and deep and full of everything words couldn't capture. When they broke apart, the children's art class was ending. Kids poured out laughing, carrying paintings and clay sculptures. Life in joyful motion. You know what Ethan said to me? Clara murmured. That night at the restaurant, he said I used love to climb some ladder. He was wrong. No, he was actually right. She watched the children. I did use love, just not the way he meant. I used it to build something meaningful, to create spaces where people can flourish, to find a partner who sees me as an equal. She looked at Luca. That's the best kind of climbing, the kind that lifts everyone up. Luca's smile was soft, genuine. You're going to make me cry in the middle of a community center. Good. You need practice being vulnerable in public. I propose to you in front of 200 people. And you can cry in front of 12 children and their art teacher. Clara stood, pulled him to his feet. Come on, let's go home. They walked out of the center, hand in hand, into the Brooklyn evening. Behind them, lights stayed on, warm and welcoming, a beacon for the neighborhood. Clara had started with nothing. No reputation, no career, no trust in love or people or herself. She'd accepted a contract from a stranger because survival demanded it. And she'd discovered everything she'd been missing, not because Luca rescued her, though he'd tried, but because she'd rescued herself and found someone willing to meet her as an equal in building a life. That was the real romance, not grand gestures or dramatic rescues. The quiet choice, made daily, to show up honestly and love courageously. They drove home through city traffic, radio playing softly. At a red light, Luca reached over and took her hand. What are you thinking? He asked. Clara looked at their joined hands, his scarred from a violent past, hers marked with pencil smudges and calluses from drafting. Two people who'd started in darkness and found their way to light. I'm thinking about second chances, she said, about how the worst moments can lead to the best ones, about how love isn't about being saved, it's about being truly seen. And I'm grateful, she smiled, for all of it, even the difficult parts. They brought me here. The light changed. They drove on. Later that night, they stood on their balcony overlooking the Hudson. The city glittered. Water moved through darkness. Above them, stars fought through light pollution, persistent and bright. "Do you ever miss it?" Clara asked. "The old life, the power?" "No," Luca's answer was immediate. "I missed nothing about who I was before you." "That's considerable pressure. You can handle it." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder. "You've handled everything else." They stood in comfortable silence, two people who'd learned that the strongest foundation was built on truth, respect, and the courage to be vulnerable. Clara thought about the viral video that destroyed her reputation, about the engagement party that ended in public humiliation, about the moment she got into a stranger's car because she had nothing left to lose. She'd lost everything that night and gained a world. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me when everyone else looked away." Luca turned her in his arms, tilted her face up to his. "I'll always see you, Clara. That's my promise. In success and failure, in joy and crisis, in the ordinary and the extraordinary, I see you and I choose you." "I choose you too," she said. He kissed her softly, and Clara felt the last protective barrier around her heart dissolve. This was home, not the house or the city or the life they'd built. This, the feeling of being fully known and completely loved. The stars kept shining, the river kept flowing, and two people who'd started as strangers became the truest version of themselves, together. Clara had walked into devastation in ivory silk and emerged transformed, not by becoming harder, but by staying soft enough to let love in. That was the victory. That was the happy ending, not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. Thank you for spending this hour with Clara and Luca's story. A reminder that even our darkest moments can lead to our brightest tomorrows. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss our nightly tales of redemption and second chances. Share this with someone who needs to remember that true love is built on honest choices and mutual respect. What part of their journey moved you most? Leave a comment below. I read every single one and love hearing from you. Until tomorrow night, remember, you are worthy of love that sees you, respects you, and chooses you every single day. Sweet dreams, and may your own story be filled with second chances and genuine connection.